Welcome back, race fans, to Off the Track podcast, where you get the dirt. I'm Levi Ray Gotze, and we are here at Blue Chip Technologies Racing Engines. We are a high-performance race engine shop located right here in Heltonville, Indiana. And today we've got joining us on the show, Dusty Chapman. Welcome, Dusty.
Hi there.
We appreciate you stopping by today and chatting with us here on the podcast. We were just wanting to sit down and kind of get the background on how you got your start in racing and get your story.
Well, it's I don't know if you got that much time or not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like you've had an interesting career driving all these years, and you've definitely got a big name here. You grew up in Bedford, Indiana. Is that where you were born?
Yes, that's correct. My homestead is still the same. I grew up on 2501 Washington Avenue, where I still keep my car. My mom still lives there. I actually live out by the airport. But, grew up here in Bedford, Indiana.
Yeah, I know as a kid, being around the sport as many years that my family has been racing, it's hard for me to go anywhere and not spot a race car, whether I'm here in Lawrence County or out on the road. But driving down Washington Avenue, even as a small child, I always recall seeing your guys' cars out there sitting in the driveway or seeing the shop door open, and always heard a lot about you guys, but never really stopped in and visited with you as far as, as a kid. And I've always heard a lot about your dad and what all he done for you as a driver. And it was really cool to hear that you were going to stop by the shop today, because I never have really talked to you and really ever have met you. From my knowledge as a kid, I remember seeing you at the track a lot, but we've never really sat down and talked. So I was really excited about David getting with you and finding out that you were going to be able to stop by today. And so I know that you've been doing it for many years. At what age did you actually get started driving?
I started when I was 16.
16 years old.
Yeah. It was like 76?
Yeah.
And I run a hobby stocker. Back then, it was about like what a pure stock is now.
Mm-hmm.
Same difference. And then I run that for a while with a 6-cylinder.
Okay.
And I took the same motor, the 6-cylinder, and gradually got up to the sportsman class, which, about like what a super stocker is now, same thing. And we run pretty good. And then I eventually got up to the super lates.
Right.
And, probably I think it was 79 probably is when I started running super late cars. And, so I think it was 79 that me and Denny Boatnick run neck and neck for the point championship at Brownstown. And he ended up beating me out just a few points. I can't remember that back then that far, but yeah.
So you ended up second to Boatnick in the points.
In the points.
And probably 79 is what you're saying.
I'm thinking it was 79, yeah.
Okay.
And, I never have won a point championship at Brownstown. I've always been, in the top 10 usually back then, but things just never fell in place to win one, but I've always had a good time.
It's tough at Brownstown to get a points championship.
Exactly.
I know there's been many drivers, try to set out to do it every year, and some succeed and some fail.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Hard to even get a win at Brownstown, but, sounds like you got started in 79. I know we were talking 1986, the very first Kenny Simpson Memorial race you won.
Yeah.
So from 79 to 86, you must have really improved a lot from getting a start at, you had to have been early 20s in 79.
Yeah.
And to improve so much to be able to run against that kind of competition that would have been at Brownstown for that race, that event, such a, a good paying event, even.
Yeah, back then.
You recall what it paid to win that night?
Yeah, it paid $3,000 to win, but Tom Helfrich, his sponsor at the time, was Thrust Industries, and he kicked in another $3,000 if we showed up at his track the following night at Hobstop.
So $6,000 purse.
Yeah, it paid $6,000 altogether.
That's great.
Yeah, it was big money back then.
86. That's a good amount of money
Yeah.
nowadays. But in 86, it was definitely a lot more
yeah.
to be bragging about. And so let's hear the story on how that evening went. Do you recall anything about early in the night that led up to that?
Yeah, well, I remember there's videos out there or DVDs of that race, you know.
Yeah.
And I had run across one on the internet here not too long ago, and I purchased it. I'd had one years ago, and I'd lost it.
Yeah.
And so I bought it, and a lot of that stuff I didn't remember until I watched the video, you know, how it all went down. And but yeah, I remember going there that to that race, and everybody that was anybody at the time, Larry Moore, Purvis, all them guys, the hot shots.
Yeah.
Of course, it was a stars event
Right.
race, about like what Lucas is now.
Right.
And they were all there. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just one of them meant to be things, you know. I mean, we had
Yeah.
a good qualifying time, and the funny thing about that whole deal was the week before that we we barely made the show.
Is that right?
I mean, we was totally out to lunch.
Yeah.
And we had it was a new Rayburn car. It was the underslung type car that he made back then.
Mm-hmm.
And we was struggling like crazy.
Yeah.
And but like I say, the week before that race, we was junk.
Out to lunch.
I mean, totally junk.
Right.
And I was like, man. So anyway, it was that day, Friday or Saturday. I think it was Saturday. I got up there to Mom and Dad's, and Dad had to rear end all out of the car,
Uh-oh.
and he was like, I'm going to change this panhard bar mount and this and that. And I'm like, why would you want to do that today, you know? But that's how my dad was. He always, I don't know if looking back on it, I think he done a lot of this stuff on purpose to get my, flare me up, to get me ticked off, so that when I got there, I was just like a bull in a china shop.
Right.
And it a lot of times it paid off. I mean, he had me so mad.
Right.
And but anyway, he changed the panhard bar around from the left side to the right side and done this and that. We went over in that car. Magically, it was just fast right out of the gate. I'm like, man. I can't believe that.
Had good qualifying lap.
We was in the top 4, and didn't have to run a heat race or anything like that. I don't recall I had to run a heat because the top 4 was locked in.
Just
at the time.
went ahead and transferred. That's nice.
And it was an amazing night how it all took place. But yeah, I remember.
So you started top 4.
Yeah, I think I started either on the front row or the second row, and we run right there all night long. I remember Ray, your
Grandfather.
grandpa.
Yeah.
He led it almost the whole race, probably the whole race, and he clipped the tire coming off too with probably, I don't know, 15, 20 laps to go.
Okay.
Wasn't very much longer in the race. It was a 100-lapper.
Yeah.
But then right after that, Billy Moyer shot by us on the outside, and he was gone.
Okay.
So then it was probably not too much longer. He blowed the motor, and I didn't know that. But then we had a caution, and I seen his car sitting in the infield, and I'm like, man, I thought he was leading this stupid thing.
Yeah.
But he was out. And then it was Paul Schaefer and me.
Yeah, I remember Paul.
Yeah, and we run neck and neck for back and forth, and we come into traffic and one thing another, and his car started pushing on him. He couldn't hold the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I slipped under him, and it was like 2 laps to go,
Yeah.
something like that.
And you got your win.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
was that the first win you ever had at Brownstown, or had you had probably plenty of wins before then in that amount of years?
I'd had some
Probably
back
just
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 or 4, something like that, earlier than that.
But nothing that probably meant that much to you
no.
as far as such a large paying event and something that meant something.
Yeah,
as far as it being a memorial race.
right. The meaning of the race meant
Yeah.
everything. 'Cause
Right.
Kenny was an icon.
Yeah.
And him and my dad were the bestest of friends, and it was magical how
Yeah.
it all took place.
That's a great story.
But what was really wild is a lot of people that didn't know that after the race, we had to go to the scales and do the weight thing and all this. Well, I was 6 pounds light.
Okay.
And I rode up on there and I was 6 pounds light. And I'm like, you're light. So they said, well, go let us weigh the other ones to make sure the scales are right. And
Okay.
then you go to the end and we'll weigh you again.
Right.
So I pulled off and went to they weighed the other top 3. And so I get back up on there. Well, when I pulled off, Dad was like, what's going on? And I said, well, there's light.
Car's light.
So they took the foam, and like I say, back then we didn't have a wheel cover on the right rear. We just had
Right.
foam plug. Mm-hmm. So they put that foam plug out, and a friend of mine who just passed away, John Evans, he was there with us. We took wrenches and everything we could find and stuck in that wheel. And took
Well, you're really letting loose on the story here.
And took the foam plug and shoved it in there.
Yeah.
And I remember Dad tapping on me, says, don't spin the wheels. Yeah. Whatever you do, don't spin the wheels.
Wow. Man, that
So
is great.
we drove up on there real easy, and we were like 2 pounds over. They said, all right.
You're good.
Yeah.
Go.
We just putted it over.
Sound like a clanging toolbox falling down the
boy.
interstate.
Yeah, and they handed me some stuff, and I don't remember what it was. I had it in my pockets and in my suit. I was just stuffing everything I could, to try to get some weight on.
Uh-huh.
And I remember Dad said, I didn't know at the time what they was doing. He just said, don't spin the wheels. So I just put it off there.
Right.
But later they told me, said, oh man, your dad took the plug out and we just throwed everything we could in that wheel and put the plug back in.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's some Scott Bloomquist stuff right there. Oh, wow.
But we just almost didn't get it,
Yeah.
It was just, like I say, that whole night was like that. It was just magical.
Yeah.
I mean, how it all took place.
That's really cool. Well, you've been, doing it for, I don't know for sure how many years of racing that is, but I mean, that's well over 40 years then, right, of driving and still doing it today. And what would you say, looking back with your dad being so involved? I know you were telling me that he used to run the figure 8 cars, and he dabbled in the circle track stuff a little bit when you were pretty young, but then, what motivated him so much in the shop? I've heard stories about the things that he would do and the geometry. He was just sound like a really intelligent man, and it seemed like I'm sure the motivation was putting you in the car and getting you up front, but it seems like he really spent a lot of time in the shop trying to figure out ways to improve things, and I'm sure that was great having him in there. And
Oh yeah, my dad was a thinker all the time. He wanted to. His thought was, you don't want to be like everybody else, or you want to run like everybody else.
Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of something different.
Right.
And he had a mind that was just always thinking. I mean, it didn't matter what he was doing. He building a street rod or an electric bicycle or what. He was just always tinkering with something.
Right.
And I remember the Coyote Clutch deal that he made. We was running at East Bay that they just got done running. This was in 82, 83.
Yeah.
We went down there with a Ford Mustang, and we had right off the bat, we blowed the motor, right off the bat. And we was down there with Ray and all of them. And first time I'd ever been down there.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, right off the bat, we blow the motor. So we pulled the motor out right there in the infield at the racetrack. Back then, in East Bay, you parked on the inside of the racetrack. So everybody, you know, was congregated inside the infield of the racetrack. So we pulled that motor out, and on the back of that motor, on the back of the flywheel, was this god-awful looking thing that nobody had ever seen before. And then we was running one of them clutches that Dad made. And it was a mocked-up version of what we ended up selling.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, it's crude and it worked.
Right.
And we was down there with Ray Callahan and Ray and all of them. Well, anyway, when we pulled that motor out, all these guys, Moyer and all the big name guys, they come over and said, what in the world is this? Because back then you run the triple disc clutch, the heavy clutch and all that, you know. Well, this thing was just a piece of tin with a gear in the center of it that locked it up. And he was looking at it like, man, you need to market that and sell that. That's a heck of an idea. So anyway, long story short, when we got back home, we dabbled into it. We went down and talked to Avco, who was, at that time it's called MRE. Mm-hmm. And they talked us into, yeah, we'll market that. That's a best thing to hit since, you know, anything. So that's what we did, and boy, it took off like Jack the Bear, and we got so involved in it that we couldn't even race because it was, you know, when something like that hits, you just get covered up overnight.
Right.
So, yeah, that was a...
That had to be, you know, such a great feeling knowing that your dad come up with something. He thought of this, he designed it, and made it work. And then here you are running it, and then these guys that are big name drivers then that still are today, and you know they're looking at it, trying to figure it out. I mean, to have that kind of memory about your dad being that, you know, just brilliant minded, and to be thinking outside the box constantly.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard so many different things that he would do in the shop that was just a lot, like you said, he didn't want to be like everyone else. He wanted you to think outside the box constantly, and that's really cool. So you guys, now you're at the shop here at home, and you're working on these, and you guys are selling them or giving them to the distributors, and they're selling them. I'm taking it, and now you don't have the time to race, so take a little time from racing and then just jump back in the seat as things calm down.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I got burnt out on the clutch deal real quick.
Yeah,
you know, cause,
doing the same thing constantly, probably. Right.
Yeah, and then you know the car took a back burner because you was so busy, and a lot of times we didn't even go because we was so busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that was a crazy time back then.
Yeah.
Crazy time.
It's probably really triggers your mind when you go back in that shop every once. I'm sure you go in there quite a bit because you keep the car there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and so, I mean, when Dad passed away, we tried to clean up a lot of, you know, because my mom wanted one stall so she could park her car in.
Yeah.
And bless her heart, she deserved it.
Yeah.
I mean,
he had it full.
Oh, Dad never threw nothing away.
Well, that sounds a lot like my dad. If you go in his garage, it can be quite difficult to make a lap. But he's always said, as soon as you throw something away, that's when you need it.
You'll need it.
And I understand that sometimes, but I'm kind of the opposite. If I ain't used it and last a little bit, I don't have it.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty neat, and you know, you guys have had that last name that stuck out as far as going to the tracks and running Ford engines too.
Oh yeah.
So there's another, you know, item that's different from you guys versus most of the guys you're competing against out there back in the 70s and the 80s and 90s, and you guys really ran the Ford engines a lot. And so what was it like being the only guy at the track with a Ford engine? And, you know, did you guys, I mean, what made you guys go that route? Your dad, I'm assuming, was a big Ford man. So he was always the one pushing the Ford engines, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. He, like I said, when I started out, I had a 306, and that's what he always ran when he run a figure eight car. It was a 306, and he got more power out of them things. I mean, you'd ask anybody that ever was around him for no more than he had to work with. I mean, back then you didn't have all the exotic parts and stuff. You had to make do with what you had.
Right.
Them things would run like crazy.
Yeah.
But he was a total blue oval guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we did run a Chevrolet a couple times, and but then we'd always, he would either everything that ever went wrong was, well, that had gum Chevrolet. It had gum, even if it was a flat tire, it was because it had a Chevrolet.
That's great.
And so, yeah, to always keep peace and to work with him, I'd always just cave in and we'd run forward.
Yeah.
So we went from running a dirt car and dabbled into the asphalt a little bit.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, when Louisville Motor Speedway opened up, the big fancy half mile that they had down there, we went with Frank Kimmel, and he built us a car to run down there.
Okay.
And we was the only Ford there too, and that didn't last real long because I couldn't get into the bump and run. It was a totally different driving style than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
The Asphalt boys down there, of course, it was a flat track, really fast, and the only way to pass was to bump you and get you out and bump and run.
Yeah.
And I just
didn't adapt to that
I
too
couldn't
well.
adapt to it. Now we could go to Salem and I'd be fine, because there wasn't no bumping and running down there. You get hurt.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I might have run that maybe a year, maybe year and a half. I thought, man, this is not for me.
All right.
So, but yeah,
I know my daddy ran, I guess it was just kind of like a bomber back whenever I was pretty young down at Salem. Said he had more fun in that one race than, he'd ever had on dirt. Really enjoyed it. I never have ran on it. And he always kind of had it in my head, like, if you try it, you're not going to want to go back to dirt. But I don't know. I've never.
The worst thing about the asphalt to me was when you have a wreck,
it's
have a
bad.
wreck. You really
It's exactly what happened to him.
I mean, that wall tears a lot of stuff up, and it's just, you don't realize how fast you're running until you do start crashing, and man, does it
tears it up bad. Yeah, he said he hit the wall so hard that the right front, spindle and hub, and it ended up basically beside him.
Oh yeah,
So I thought, I think I'll just stick with dirt.
Yeah, it's.
So while you guys are running the late models, where all were you guys really trying to concentrate? Did you mainly just focus at Brownstown, even back in the 70s and 80s, or were you guys kind of traveling around? Did you guys get out and chase after the all-star points then? Or
A little bit. We run with your grandpa. We followed him some with the all-star circuit.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's back when they started running the wedge cars.
Yeah. Things got out of hand there.
Oh my! And we run a lot with Ray back then.
Yeah.
Ray was on top of the game back then.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we followed. We just tag teamed, hooked up, and we followed him wherever he was going.
Even on the road, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like you guys would actually follow each other to the track.
To the track.
Keep an eye on each other's stuff and help out. That's great.
Yeah, I remember going to Wayne County and all over the place.
Yeah.
I didn't follow it naturally like he did, but we, hit and missed.
Yeah.
And every time we did go, we would just tag team with him, because we didn't really know where he was going. He'd
already been there and kind of knew the best routes. And
yeah.
back then, you guys didn't have these little cell phones.
Oh no!
All this navigation systems and
back then the CB radio was all you had.
Yeah.
And boy, your grandpa, I could go on telling stuff on how he could get you in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, CB radio is all we
I
had.
can't. I'm having a hard time picturing Grandpa getting anybody in trouble.
Yeah, it was crazy time, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure those are some good stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I've heard several and been involved in a few.
Man.
So, yeah, we won't get into all that. But so you guys were really getting out on the road and traveling. And your dad, what was he doing for a living back in these days when you guys are? Was that pretty much his primary focus as a living, building the Coyote Clutches?
Well, at that point in time, yeah, when we was running the All-Star Series,
Yeah.
it was.
So you guys could kind of bust tail to get out a certain amount of parts to the, you
Right.
know, and
And
then
take off.
and
Yeah.
be gone for several days.
Dad actually worked for Jim Stanley Steel, right down the road here from where we're at now.
Yeah.
He worked there,
Okay.
and they built a new shop back in, I don't know, it was in the 70s sometime they built it, and but yeah, that's where Dad.
Yeah. Well, it was good that he was able to have a flexible schedule and people work with him to where he could travel like that.
Right.
You being at that age at the time, probably racing was all you were probably concentrating on
yeah.
as far as making a living, I'm assuming.
Well, I had in '84 I went to work for Carlisle.
Yeah.
So
So you've been with Carlisle for a while then.
oh yeah,
That's great.
It had been a super good company to work for. They've
Yeah.
been really good to me, and I was lucky enough to, when I did go to work for them, they were lenient about any time I wanted to take off, I could go.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have no gripes about working for them at all.
That's good.
And but yeah, it was. We just pack up and just
Take
off
off.
and go.
Yeah. Fill the cooler up with some lunch meat and hit the open road. There
Yeah.
you go. Well, that's great that you guys were able to, be able to compete on that kind of level. And I know Grandpa, like you said, there was a time where he was really on top of his game. And when he showed up at the track, a lot of people expected to see him win. But just like you were saying, Billy Moore, your senior, and, Jeff Purvis, and these guys that were just absolute legends were, who your competition was. And being at that age, competing against guys that have that big name, it had to be, as far as, I guess for me, it would make me nervous or, afraid that I'm not going to be able to compete, live up to it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I can't imagine. And
Yep.
you were able to do it. And
Yeah, and going back to the Simpson race that night,
yeah,
it was just wild because I didn't realize how far off these guys were on their game after watching that video.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding? We lapped Larry Moore and Purvis and them guys.
That's
Boggs,
crazy.
Jack
Yeah,
Boggs.
Jack Boggs.
We lapped them guys.
Right.
It's like, that just don't happen.
So it's a good thing your dad ripped the rear end out that
Yeah.
day. He, looking back at it now, do you think that maybe he might not have changed that much and he was just firing you up, or on that specific day he was actually making some good changes?
He had cut mounts and
he was doing his homework.
When I got up there, he was welding these mounts up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And he's like, "Well, it won't work the way it is, so we got to do something."
Yeah.
And I'm like, why today? Why
Oh,
would
yeah.
you do it now?
Such a big race.
Yeah, but it all fell in place.
Well, that's great.
I mean, it's
It's a really cool story to know that the very first Kenny Simpson Memorial race. I mean,
yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
So-
I know a lot of people. There's only probably 3 people that ever knew about the whole deal about the scales and all that.
Yeah, you let the cat out of the bag on that one. Definitely, people got the dirt on that.
Oh yeah,
So,
that was I sweated that out like crazy because, yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you say? I mean, you've went to racetracks all over. Then, what would be one of your favorite tracks to race at?
Oh, no doubt it'd be Brownstown.
Yeah.
I've been to Eldor, I don't know, probably half a dozen times.
Mm-hmm.
My equipment, wasn't up to par to run it at a track like that.
Yeah.
That's a hard track to. It's hard on stuff.
Yeah.
And but Brownstown, they don't. You usually go there and you don't have to work on the car all week because there's no wall. Mm-hmm. I mean there is, but you got to try it.
Yeah, if you hit that wall, you've done something.
You're yeah. And,
which I've managed to do before.
I have too.
Yeah.
I think we all have.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think it's possible, but it is.
It
possible.
is. Yeah. Been there, done that.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I always another track I really was fond of was Barron County in Glasgow, Kentucky.
Okay.
We went there a lot, and with your
I was going to say, I think I've heard stories about that track.
that was a always called it a small Eldora.
Okay.
It was real high banked, and man, was it fast.
Yeah.
But we went there quite often, but by far probably Brownstown would rate at the very top of my list.
Yeah. And back in those days, was the track, as far as, was it more, I guess, the way you enjoyed to race it then versus now, or do you kind of like the way the track's set up now? I know it's changed a lot over the years since back in the 80s to nowadays. I mean,
yeah, I remember.
I know technology's changed, cars have changed, but
yeah.
as far as the way the track is,
yeah, the tracks to me, of course, the older I get, my eyesight, you know how that goes. Mm-hmm. But they kind of build it up, so it's real easy to get off the fine line, get off that berm.
Yeah,
and it's hard for me to judge when you're running at the top, at the edge, you might say. It's real easy just to go on over.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it didn't seem like it was that easy to do. You always stayed on the track.
Yeah.
But I always remember the thing that stuck out in my mind about the old Brownstown was they always had a concrete strip right in the front straightaway, and you come down through there and it'd be dirt, and you'd hit that concrete, and it was a transition.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, they had a concrete pad.
What do you think that was for? You think it had something to do with?
It was probably for stages and stuff for the fair.
Yeah.
And it was. I don't know exactly when
Never
they
heard
took
that.
out, but they had a concrete strip, a pad there, and you come down through there and you hit that, and the car would just kind of do a lunge, and it was unique. It was really unique type track.
Right.
But I don't know what time frame they took that out. Mm-hmm. But it was in the 80s somewhere, or maybe late 70s. But
it's definitely a first for me. I've never heard that.
Yeah, they always had a little concrete pad there.
Yeah. Well, I know Grandpa ran there for my entire life.
Yeah.
It's always kind of been what I would consider our home track. I know Bloomington is right here too for us as far as running modified. You can go either place. True. But as far as my family, the home track growing up, we were at Brownstown. If someone wanted to find us on the weekends, it was
that's where
we were at.
Right.
And of course there were several of the uncles and cousins that done it, and it's always been a good home for us. I feel like it's a great facility. They've definitely made a lot of changes over the years since you've started way back then until now, and you ran them late models for all those years and traveled all these races and done so well, and it's pretty neat whenever you look at the competition that you've competed against throughout those years. Like you were saying with watching Billy Moyer the other night climbing out of his car, huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
Do you ever think, well, I'm gonna have to hang this up anytime soon, or what's your ultimate goal there? Are you just gonna keep digging until you just decide one day I've had enough, or?
Well, my wife's on me all the time.
Is that right?
You're going to have to think about this now.
Yeah.
You're not no young chicken.
No
anymore,
young chicken no more.
But I still have the drive to do it.
Yeah.
And when that drive's gone, I'll
That's
just
when
hang it up.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not as competitive as I once was, but I can't afford to be. You know, I mean, I know some point in time you gotta reality has to set in, and it's like, look, you just gotta do what you can do, and be happy with it.
Right.
And that's what I do. I just go and let the cards fall where they fall, and you know, I do the best I can with what I got,
And you're still enjoying it.
and I have a good time.
Yeah. And you enjoy working on the car as far as in the shop. And
Oh yeah, that's my getaway time.
Yeah.
In my space, you know.
Right.
I can just, you know, I do a lot of it all myself anymore. I didn't realize until my dad was gone how much he done.
Yeah.
You know, you don't the behind the stuff you take for granted, and he to me it seemed like he'd piddle all week,
Yeah.
but by the end of the weekend come, we was ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, when you know now I'm having to do it, and I've got two super guys helped me.
Yeah.
Been with me since back in the 70s.
Is that right?
Yeah, they've stuck with me, and I don't know why, because I sometimes treat them like crap.
Yeah.
You know how that goes, but they've stuck with me tooth and nail.
Who are these guys? They from Bedford?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff Cox, good friend of mine. I think he's been with me since maybe 79, 80.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's been
So
with me
ever since you got in the late model.
Yeah, he's always been with me. Another one, he's kind of a partner with me, is Mark Cravella.
Yeah.
He's super dude. He's helped me out a lot, and without them two, just being at the track and helping me.
Yeah.
Let alone what they do for me, you know.
At the shop.
At the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be impossible to run.
Right.
But yeah, through the week, for the most part, it's just me tinkering, and so, you know.
When you're in that shop and you're working on the car and you realize that you're sitting under that same roof that your dad made all those decisions for you, and as far as setups and the whole Coyote Clutch thing, that gets me. That is just absolutely awesome. I mean, where'd he come up with the name?
Well, back then I was known as the Coyote.
Is that right?
I got a nickname, and we had always on my car, the Coyote and the Roadrunner, the cartoon.
Yeah.
We always had that Coyote painted on the roof.
Yeah.
And it kind of just stuck, and so that name got transferred over into the MRE. Really told us, you know, you need a catchy name.
Yeah.
You know, a selling point for anything is a catchy name, whether it works or not.
Yeah.
People will buy it if the name stands out.
Right.
And so we dabbled around and said, well, how about this and that? And we threw a couple of things out and thought, well, why not just Coyote? Like, that's it.
That's great.
That's how it worked out. Yeah.
Now, who painted the Coyote on top of the cars for you? Was that Nicholas?
Back then it was Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah. He took the cartoon character and transferred. Of course, back then there wasn't no graphics and stick-on
wraps
and
and
all that. He hand painted the whole thing.
Very slick at it.
Oh
too.
yeah, he was an artist.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
He's got an unbelievable talent.
Oh yeah.
When he hand lettered Grandpa's Hall of Fame car that ended up in the museum down in Kentucky, you know, to me, I realized he still got it too. You know?
Yeah.
He's very talented at it, and I know his father done it for years and passed that down to him. And
Yeah.
that's pretty neat to know that you guys have all known each other and been involved in the sport for that many years.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. A lot of the young kids today probably not been exposed to the hand lettering and the painting that like they did back then. Mm-hmm. It was just amazing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, to watch them guys. No, you know, it's like a tattoo artist. Mm-hmm. They no outlines, no nothing. They just
freehand it and roll with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy good.
I remember watching Trent do it when I was young. And I mean, Nicholas has done all our cars as far as my family for so many years. And of course, like you said, technology took over and
Oh, yeah.
the computers and the wraps. But yeah, to be able to see it, it's impressive. I mean, it's still artwork to be able to come up with the wrap designs, and them guys are still very talented at what they do today. But the hand lettering stuff, it blows me away. I got a Facebook group or something that's hand lettered race cars, and it still shows people that do it today.
Wow.
It's pretty neat to watch.
Yeah.
But you can watch people on there, and there's still guys out there that's got that talent, but I also realize how much time it takes.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Can
Yeah.
you imagine paying by the hour for something like that
Right.
today? Oh, my land.
Yeah.
It cost you a fortune.
So what track was the farthest you guys traveled to? Probably Florida then, back in
Back
them
then,
days?
yeah, I went to Florida twice to race. And then second to that would definitely be Pennsboro. They had
Yeah.
the old Pennsboro track where they run
That's awesome.
the World Championship race. I made that race twice.
Wow.
I think we run, I don't know, top 10 the first time,
Yeah.
and then had problems the second time. But yeah, that was Pennsboro was a unique place.
Yeah.
It was even back then it was just so out of the ordinary. The track had 2 bridges in it. The water run from turn 1 and come out at turn 2 or 4, the other end, and you literally went across 2 bridges
That's crazy.
and wooden bridges on top of that. And I remember people.
Is that right? Wooden bridges?
Wooden bridges?
Wow,
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah, and you definitely knew when you went across them. I mean,
Wow.
the car would just, ask your grandpa. It was,
I will definitely have to ask
it
him
was
about
crazy.
that. That is crazy.
People, there wasn't no grandstands. People were just
Sitting up on the hillside.
set up on the hillside.
Yeah, I've seen pictures, and I never realized the bridges, though.
Yeah,
That's
they had-
really
They
interesting.
had a bridge in 1 and 2, and the water run right in the middle of the racetrack in the infield, and it come out in 3 and 4. And
So did you ever take a wedge car over there? Or?
yeah, that's what I ran.
Yeah.
That was back, 82, 84,
Yeah.
somewhere along there. Yeah.
I remember being a kid, pretty young, probably 7, 8 years old, and being around Grandpa's wedge cars, and
Oh, they were.
even seeing pictures of them as when I was a child, standing next to them. They were just unbelievable
They were,
machines.
They definitely got out of hand, like anything else. But yeah, they were so unique back then. It
Yeah.
was just crazy, and that's when I think what turned all that around is when they went to to regroup and get the cars back, somewhat like they are today.
Mm-hmm.
It was when Swartz showed up at Pennsboro.
Yes,
Swartz,
Charlie.
with the
The
front
center-
engine, the center engine car.
Yes, I've
And-
seen so many photos of that, and
Yeah, it was.
wow.
It was so over the top,
Somebody had to do it.
Oh yeah.
Might as well be Swartz. Yeah,
And right after that, I think it was probably that year. Bob Memmer at the time was over UMP, and he stepped in and said, "Well,
we got
to
shut
regroup
this
here
down.
and get this stuff back to earth."
Right.
So, but yeah, it was a crazy time from, I don't know, it was probably from like 82 to like 84, somewhere along in there.
Mm-hmm.
The wedge cars were took off and
Running
like
the
space
Lex
rock.
sand sides that
Oh,
are just
yeah.
12 foot tall. I mean, wow. I've seen pictures of guys literally sitting on the roof of the garage holding the tops of those while they're getting them secured. And I'm
Yeah.
like, so are they hauling those to the track like that? You think about catching sidewind, the
my.
trailer just
Oh,
rolling over.
yeah.
But yeah, I remember being around Grandpa's, and they'd set us up on the decking to wash the insides of them. And we got pictures of us all as kids, me and my cousins standing beside them. And of course, the side of the Lexans, like another 10 feet taller than we were.
It's crazy.
But growing up around them, I mean, as a kid, I never really knew what was taking place as far as looking back in history and the racing and the sport that it is, and knowing what all you guys were doing to just try to go to that next level and shave off that next 2/10, and even today people are, still always constantly trying to improve, but you guys were making like huge leaps. I mean, it was like, we're going to go to the next level. But just like you said, Charlie showing up with that center engine car, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
And then it's off.
And I've still got a tar that we ran on that wedge car, and it come from your grandpa, and the thing's 22 inches wide.
Wow.
It's literally 22 inches wide. And that's what we run on the right rear, a Firestone and a Goodyear.
Yeah.
And that sucker was
just huge.
2 foot wide. Like, man.
Yeah.
I still got it.
I might need to borrow that this summer for that modified.
Yeah. You only need one. Take the other left rear off.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So when you guys were running with Grandpa, did you guys ever bounce ideas off one another and kind of feed off each other's success?
Yeah. Matter of fact, the car that I had when the wedge car that I had come from your grandpa, it was a Pete Parker car. And we done some wheeling and dealing and trading this and that, with the clutch deal. And your grandpa was selling, he was hooked up with Australia at the time.
Right.
So he was selling clutches like crazy. So we done wheeling and dealing with Ray.
Yeah.
But my wedge car it literally come from him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he helped us out a bunch.
Well, that's good.
Because we was, that was probably one of the first cars that we actually bought, because Dad made everything. And back in the older days, you went to the junkyard and you cut and welded, and that's what you had.
It wasn't no flipping through a magazine ordering all your parts.
No. Then Rayburn come along and kind of changed all that.
Yeah.
And we struggled on the struggle bus for a good bit until Ray said, I got this. It's a copy, but it's the same thing. And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
And, of course, Ray was actually driving for CJ at the time. So, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have run near as good as we did.
And then you guys ran Rayburn cars as well. And
yeah, after that car, we hooked up with CJ and started running. And to this day, that's what I've got.
Still running Rayburn. That's great.
Yeah, CJ's always been. CJ was a lot like my dad. I mean, he's just a carbon copy of my dad.
Yeah.
His thinking process, his little sayings that he's got that people could take the wrong way, but they're true. You know, I mean, it's just, I'll never forget when we went after that car, the first car we bought from him. We go get up there, and it was the wrong, he said, well, that's your car there. And Dad goes, well, I don't want that thing. That's an over rail car. I want the underslung rail. And he said, Dad said, I want some mounts on them bars where I can adjust it. And I'll never forget this. And Rayburn goes, if it was up to me, the only adjustment on a race car would be the seat belts. He said, that's the only adjustment that you need is the seat belt.
I can see him saying that.
And I'm like, he says, you got to keep these cars stupid proof.
Yeah.
And he said, because racers are stupid people.
That is funny.
Like, you were sitting there like, he's talking about me.
Yeah. He's slamming me right to my face.
But, looking back on it, he is, so true. That stuff is so true. Because the more you got, the more you can get adjusted out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
And you keep it simple, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to get somewhere, in the ballpark.
Yeah.
But at the time I was a young, 20. I'm like,
pretty young.
You gonna let him talk to us like that?
Right. Come on, Dad. That's really cool. Just the history that you guys have got, and being around Grandpa and Purvis and all them guys and CJ and what all CJ's done for the sport. Looking back, it's amazing what all you guys have all accomplished over the years. Yourself and Rayburn and Grandpa and
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
There's not very many of us left, that
Right.
still run. Steve Barnett, he was one of them
Yep.
that was one of the old fogies. And,
yep.
a lot of people just ask me,
And Jim Curry.
Yeah,
you know,
Curry.
Curry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Denny Boatnick he's still at it.
oh yeah, does a great job.
oh,
Well, and
yeah.
them modifieds even, and
Yeah, a handful.
yes,
But it's, you got to have that drive.
Right.
And I've got a great grandson who's he's dabbled in it a few times, but I never did really devote 100% to him.
Yeah.
It was my fault.
okay,
I'm hoping down the road he'll want to take over when I'm done, and I can devote everything to him.
how old is he? His age?
24. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Okay.
And but yeah, that's.
Well, maybe that'll work out.
I think it will if I mean, he was super good in go karts and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but the go kart thing was, I devoted everything to it,
Yeah.
and that's what you got to do.
Yep.
You can't do something on your own and do it, and then you got to concentrate on
Right.
one thing.
Right.
And
Yeah, it takes a lot to keep these cars going around the track. Time, money,
Oh, yeah.
sponsors, and who all do you guys have helping you guys on the car as far as sponsors go? Do you pretty well fund the entire racing project yourself? And
pretty well.
Yeah.
That's pretty well been it. Like I say, Mark Carvello's been a big help.
yeah,
But I mean, he's just an individual who helps me out.
who loves the sport and loves helping you?
Yeah, and Carlisle come on board with me last year,
Yeah,
and they helped me out some.
that's good.
And but yeah, for the biggest part, it's just basically it's family funded,
Yeah,
and I look at it as if I can go and pay for my expenses.
mm-hmm. You had a
and
good night.
I've had a good night.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said before, I know that my equipment's not
Yeah,
top 5 caliper stuff,
right.
and but you never know. Them top 5 cars could all be in a wreck on the first lap.
Well, and it's one of them things where I think you've proven yourself in the years of doing it how good I mean to win the races that you have, and
Yeah,
just the last name that you've made for as far as Chapman. I mean, when people hear that, at least people my age, they know who you are and what you've done, and
well, I've been around a long time.
yeah.
But like I say, I've got 2 grandsons, and then a little granddaughter, and they love camping.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of camping.
Yeah,
with them.
that's important.
And that's, I mean,
Camping's good for the family, and it's,
yeah. And it's
you try to go camping with Grandpa sometime though. He'll get you in trouble at the campgrounds too.
I can't imagine
Yeah.
that. Oh boy.
Oh, he cracks me up.
Oh boy.
We was camping up at Hardin Ridge. I'm gonna tell on him real quick here. We was camping at Hardin Ridge, and he's got this little 4-cylinder front-wheel drive car, and there were several of us camping. I had a 5th wheel up there, and we had 4 or 5 campsites, and I could hear this car revving pretty high, and what it was is they told him he could cut some firewood that was laying down. The tree had been dead, so he had his chainsaw up there, and he's cutting this tree up, and he's got all this wood piled up in the back of the car, and you can just hear that little 4-cylinder just screaming. He's trying to climb this hill, and of course it had been raining the week before, and it was pretty soft and wet, and so me and I can't remember who was with me, but 2 or 3 of us go down there and we push him up out of there, and he's spinning mud all over the place, and he gets up there and he's unloading that wood, and And I'm like, all right, we dodged a bullet there. And as he gets out there, he jumps across a culvert and, parks the car and he's unloading the wood. And I'm thinking, we're good. Everything's fine. Look back 10 minutes later and he's back down over the hill again getting more,
Oh, kidding.
He just cracks me up. He was like, I got to get that wood cleaned up. Like it was a job he got, but
That's right.
Yeah, he just likes to cut wood and he likes to sit by campfires. So
Well, that's cool.
it is. We enjoy going with him when they get to go, and hopefully this summer we can get out and do a little bit of that.
It's a relaxing time.
It is. It's good to spend time with the family at the lake and be able to relax and sometimes not be working so hard. But well, we greatly appreciate you stopping by today and coming on the show.
Been a pleasure.
We'll have to see how good 2020 treats you this season and get you back in here and get an update maybe midway through the season and see how things are going. Maybe that grandson of yours is gonna turn some laps sometime, and
that's my plan. That's my down the road plan.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer I can go. You know, keep up, but. As long as I've got a drive and a passion for it, I'm still
keep
going.
willing it.
Yeah, I mean I've slowed up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the mind frame that I've got to be there every Saturday night.
Yeah.
If I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
If not, we'll do something else.
Yeah.
But
well, that's good whenever you can do it like that and still have fun doing it. Because if you're not having fun racing, then there's no reason to be doing it at all.
Exactly.
It's a lot of work and a lot of money.
Oh my!
So
it's crazy. A lot. People don't really realize the through the week stuff, how much is involved.
Behind the scenes stuff.
They just see you showing up Saturday.
Right.
And why are you late? How's come you're coming in at 6 o'clock or 7:30?
Missing hot laps.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why is that? And they always give me a static at the gate because, well,
giving you a hard time.
You're right on time. You missed all the hot laps and all that.
Good.
It's like you don't understand.
Yeah.
It's one of me.
Right.
With a lot of help, that day, but for the most part through
the week, you're trying to get everything
and
prepared.
We're, and we all show up, and hurry up and hustle, trying to get stuff going.
Right.
But like I say, I couldn't do it without the help I've got.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Dusty, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. Again, we appreciate you stopping by the shop today. And this concludes another episode of Off the Track, where you get the dirt. I'm Levi Gotze, and we appreciate everybody joining in tonight and watching. If you have not already liked us on Facebook, please be so kind to do so. And check us out on bluechiptech.net. You can always give us a call at 1-812-807-7050 for all your engine needs. Thank you and have a great evening.